All ready? All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mari Perot.
Here.
Jenny Requay.
Here.
Janet Lloyd.
Here.
Maggie Weimer. Randy Hayden.
All right, I just want to make a quick statement here from the board. The Darrington School District Board of Directors issues the following clarification. Statements made by an individual board member, whether in their private life, at private gatherings, or on social media, do not represent the official position of the Darrington School District or the board. No single member is authorized to speak on behalf of the board outside of outside of duly convened meetings or formally approved communications. Furthermore, meetings or discussions held outside of properly noticed regular or special board meetings do not reflect the views, decisions, or actions of the Darrington School District Board as a whole. Only actions taken by the board during official meetings constitute the position of the board. Any correspondence?
No.
We need a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion to approve. Second. No. Yes. And a new person.
Ada.
Ada.
No.
Adri.
Adri, sorry.
Adri. Sorry. All in favor?
The wrong name your whole life.
Anybody opposed? Okay. And then yes.
I move the comments for agenda items, item W, up to where we usually used to have it, which is between I and J, so we need J. Second that.
Girls?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. And now moving on to district report, PSE.
Welcome, everyone. PSE is getting ready for classified week coming up the first part of March. Classified appreciation week, and get appreciated by staff wonderfully and community members, and we also appreciate each other and do lots of things throughout that. Something different that we're doing as a peer group, and I can give you a full report on that if it works. We're all very happy for the nice sunshiny weather, and we're all very happy that our groundskeepers are dealing with what the East Coast is dealing with in their snowmageddon. We also, what was our other one? Heather, you had 3 things on the list. Negotiations are coming. Negotiations for the PSE classified staff are coming up in the spring, and we're preparing for that. And other than that, we are uniting as a group best we can individually and collectively when we're talking to support our levy and our staff. And we have the same talking to classified rules that I can't speak for the entire group, but I can say that we are conversing about it as well.
Thank you, PJ. DEA?
And so our teachers wanted us to share some of the learning experiences currently happening in our classrooms. We are seeing a strong emphasis on hands-on project-based learning. Our transitional kindergarten students are growing their own food, planting and caring for and soon harvesting items they will prepare and eat themselves. Our second grade students have been having weekly mystery reader visits, where community members come in to read to students, and Mrs. Grossman would love to extend that invitation to any school board or community members who would like to participate. Our kindergarten and fifth grade students meet every Wednesday as reading buddies, building both literacy skills and positive mentorship relationships between younger and older students. This Friday, our fifth graders will also be hosting a classroom career fair where family members will come share about the professions, helping students begin connecting learning to future goals. At the middle school level, students are equally engaged in experiential learning. In science classes, students are currently hatching chicks as part of their study of life science and development. Through this study, they are working to answer the question, how do eggs become chickens and other animals? In ancient civilization classes, students have been combining research and technology in creative ways. They use AI tools to conduct simulated interviews with mythological Greek gods and create detailed body biographies based on their research. And they are now writing and presenting speeches in character as their chosen gods and goddesses. Our eighth graders are attending the Small Skills Center open house tonight to explore hands-on career and technical programs available to them. We have a group of middle school students who are part of the peer-to-peer program. They're partnering with our student assistant professional to create presentations on topics such as tobacco prevention, healthy coping mechanisms for stress and anxiety, and media literacy. And then we are also beginning to see encouraging academic growth in reading. Our elementary classrooms recently implemented the new phonics curriculum, UFly, and teachers are already seeing positive early results in student reading development after only a few weeks of use.
UFly, like.
University of Florida Learning Institute.
Yep.
I'll say it again.
And then in high school, we have a new semester, and so we have a few new classes going on, like leadership yearbook has started, so that's fun. And then our PD days on Friday, we've been working on small group interventions, so we're working on implementing those small groups into the classroom. And then we've enjoyed having community members coming in and observing our classes and seeing what we do every day. So we appreciate that, and we would love to see more of that. You know, people are welcome to come check it out. I also wanted to comment on the meeting we had last Saturday. So I wrote a little statement here. Nearly 2 years ago, the DA took a detailed look into the Center for Inspired Learning. We looked at its website and sources, and we concluded with us writing a letter to the board detailing our concerns with that program. Last weekend, we met with the program's founder, Matt Beck, at a community meeting. We discussed the program at length and left with more questions than answers. And to be frank, there do not appear to be very many answers to our questions, only misdirections. So we stand by the letter we wrote 2 years ago, as that's the case. But we also want to make it clear that it was great to be at a meeting with so many people who are dedicated to our children's education, and we appreciate that. That's all I have.
Thank you. All right, student representatives.
Okay, first off, Adrian needs to get rep. Notified by ASB, so here she is.
Welcome.
And then our winter sports came to an end. The boys basketball team made it all the way to districts, and then quite a few of our wrestlers went to state. We had Nathan placing 7th and Creed placing 3rd. And then next week, spring sports start up. And then archery had another shoot, and they had Annabelle and Serenity both placed in their, I don't know what kind of bows they use, their specific bows. And then the science club has a blood drive coming up on March 18th. And they're working with the middle school to put on the science fair that's coming later this year in the spring. And leadership is doing fun activities such as like Jeopardy and stuff at lunch to help kind of like get the sad winter months of. And then we created a student-led levy committee that has been formed so students can voice their opinions and say how they can benefit from the levy and what they want to happen, and just let community members know how it will affect them in the future. And leadership is going to help with boxes and signs and everything, and we're going to set up booths around town and talk to the community about it. And that's that. And then Adrian, help us do that.
Our January student of the month is Sophie Ross for outstanding academics. We wanted to celebrate the end of the semester by focusing on a student who consistently excels at a very high level. Sophie Ross was our choice for this award. Sophie is a very intelligent young woman who is well-spoken and always gives her best effort. She has the only DHS student to finish with a 4.0 GPA for the first semester of the school year. She challenges herself with difficult classes and sets very high standards for herself, even as she balances the pressures of school, work, and athletics. We are very proud of Sophie and appreciate the example she sets for those around her.
Congratulations. And that could be presented tomorrow, as she's not able to be here tonight.
I sincerely present it to mom and dad. I really should take credit. Just saying.
Thank you. High school?
Well, let's see, Mr. Rankin shared a lot. And Lucy shared a lot, so there's not a whole lot of exciting stuff for me to share, so I'll just share some stuff. Personal finance, we did get personal finance is now any student that takes that, well, all seniors have to take that to graduate from Darrington High School, but they're also have the opportunity to earn college credit now through that course as well. So that's a great way for every single student in this district to leave with, I do believe they have to get a C or above to get college credit. And then we're also working on getting culinary, the culinary program, get that college credit as well. And that we are hoping to do in 25-26. Second semester, like Mr. Rankin said, he's gotten what?
You mean 26, 27?
Yeah, that one.
Next year. I know, it's hard to believe, but.
I just threw that in there so you could call me out.
Okay.
Like Mr. Rankin said, second semester's gotten off to a great start. We have had, now I'll talk about something that's not so good. We've had vaping is rampant amongst high school students and the middle school students. And it is very difficult to catch them because you have to catch them in the act. You can't just say, oh, it smells fruity in here, you must be vaping. No. So I've been working really hard with Sarah Higginbottom, often our student assistant professional that comes to us from the ESD. And she found a quit smoking program through the National Lung Association, American Lung Association. And so she will be running that. It's a voluntary program. She did the training. She sought out students. There's probably about 10 to 12 students who have expressed interest. She's running the first small group. She'll start that anytime now, I think. I think she was going to start in March. It's a 8 or 10 week program. I know on week 5 is when they stop. They just commit to stopping. So we were kind of going to throw the idea out to the kids. Well, she was going to throw the idea out to the kids as to whether they wanted to do that week during spring break when they're off, if they want to do it before or if they want to do it after. So she's giving the kids some choice as to when they want that 5th week to be so that they can be the most successful. But I'm really hoping it works.
Me too.
There's also a mandatory program that we could use for in lieu of suspension or consequences. We could use it as an alternative. But there's some other things that the district needs to do to get aligned in that first, and Sarah has to complete the training. We can do that. So and that's pretty much it for the high school. Not everybody's vaping.
No, not everybody.
Quite a few.
Any questions? All right, special programs?
Can we just push that report to when I give my special education report?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Elementary?
All right. As Melissa mentioned, the elementary had training from the ESD in January, and then we have adopted as a supplemental program the University of Florida Literacy Institute phonics program. And we have started that program in the elementary school in various ways, mainly in K through 5, whole group, small group, depending on the needs of the classroom and the needs of the students. So kindergarten, everyone's getting it. 5th grade, a small group is getting it. It just depends. Other grade levels, they're getting a whole group, and then some students are getting a small group based on where they have holes. So it's varied. So we're really excited, as some teachers have already come to me saying, oh my goodness, like we've already seen growth. So we're very excited about that program. And we're continuing to really collaborate with each other to make sure that both the paras and the teachers are implementing it with fidelity and supporting each other as we use the program. In middle school, we added 2 additional LAP classes, and LAP stands for Learning Assistance Program. It's a state-funded program. We added 2 additional programs in the afternoon, small group instruction, a certificated and a para running those groups to provide that extra support for students who need extra learning in language arts. Reading is where we're focusing it. Our first period, in middle school, we reconfigured our first period classes so that students that are meeting grade level standards are doing different activities from those that still need extra support in reading and math. That's where they're doing their pathways, etc. So we've restructured those after looking at data and talking with families saying they needed something different. They wanted something different, looking at the data as well, talking to staff. So those are some things that we've implemented since the end of January. One thing I want to clarify, talking with people, so there's different components to iReady. So at the elementary, we have iReady Math is our core curriculum. There's 3 basic components to it, and that are the lessons that are taught by the teachers. The teachers stand up, they teach the lessons, they teach the concepts, they do the lessons together, and then the students, depending on grade level, have paper, pencil work to do. So, like we all did. So there's work that they do at their own level. There's also the assessment piece, which we give 3 times a year. We call them benchmark assessments to measure and to see what growth they've had and where their skills are lacking, what supports do they need. From that assessment, the pathways are built that they do no more than like 40 minutes a week, 10 minutes a day, 40 minutes a week, depending on the classroom, how they structure it. So that's math. So 3 different components. They are not on iReady for all of their math instruction. They're on the computer. Did I say? They're not on the computer for all of it. They're only on the computer for their pathways. The teacher is still teaching the lessons. In reading, it's a little bit different. When we moved to using getting iReady for math, we wanted common assessments. And at the time, we were using MAP, a measurement of academic performance. I think it's support. And we wanted to make sure that the assessments we were using were similar in use for both the students and the staff. So our data was in alignment. So we chose at the time of our adoption to move to using iReady reading assessment. So for reading at the elementary, we use, oh my goodness, well, no, for for middle school, we use Wit and Wisdom, just like me, Wit and Wisdom. And then for K-5, we use National Geographic Reach for Reading. That's the core instruction. Now we have added on our it's called UFly. You're going to hear us use the word UFly, University of Florida Literacy Institute program, for our phonics program. With the reading, we also have the iReady assessment that does have a pathway. So we are using some grades, that pathway, individualized pathway on the computer to backfill areas that students need help. In some grades, we're pulling back on that iReady pathway a little bit because we need the additional time to teach the UFly instruction to the students. And we felt at this point we needed to do in that face-to-face, more intensive phonics instruction with our students. So some grades will continue doing iReady reading pathways. Some grades are going to pull back a little bit based on how much they're needing to do the whole group phonics and the small group phonics instruction. So I just wanted to kind of explain that. If you have further questions about that, please don't hesitate to reach out.
One, am I correct in remembering that we went with the National Geographic curriculum for the elementary because the data said that we were low in
None.
reading for comprehension?
Yeah. And it's high in reading for comprehension, but as our data has shown, it has holes and the phonics is not strong enough.
Right.
So that's why we're supplementing it with, and that's very typical in a lot of elementary curriculum. They're strong in one area, not another. So that is where we are with our reading program. And again, if anyone has other questions about this, please don't hesitate to contact me and I can go more in depth into it. And on the note of literacy, we are scheduling another literacy night for March 25th. It will be in the elementary library. We're going to have featured readers from classrooms and from the community. Hopefully we'll have some more high school students step in and read as well. And it's just a fun night to get together and share parts of books, passages that we enjoy and spend time together. There will also be a short, like a 10-minute instructional time for the families, the parents, to sit with a couple of our instructors to kind of get some tips and strategies for reading aloud with students and why it is so important to have read aloud, especially for our younger students. Because what we're finding is students are coming into our preschool and kindergarten programs and they don't know how to hold a book. They don't know which way is up on the book. They are really unclear of how to turn pages properly. So we really want to help and support our families with those strategies of reading with their children and tips, you know, to help them if they need that. So that's my elementary report.
Any questions? Okay. Superintendent?
Welcome to our new representative. I'm excited that on March 6th, we're planning to go with Ms. Christofferson. It's a special meeting at the Northwest ESD for superintendents to come with their special ed directors to talk about programming in the schools, but also they're having a retreat for all the board representatives in our region. So all the board representatives from around our region will come together and they'll share what they're doing, get tips, learn some new strategies, and just work with other representatives. So we're excited to join this year. We didn't attend last year, but this year we're going to be attending, and that's up in Anacortes. One area that we've heard a lot about in an area of growth that we need to look at is our communication tools. And so Mackenzie and I met with a sales representative, of course. And so we are looking at a new tool to redesign our website because it is old and it is clunky. It is hard to navigate. I'll ask Billy over there. She's making comments. But so we're looking at that, but we're also looking at this program because it will link with a phone app so that when we upload something to our website, it's going to also go to an app if you want it on your phone. It also provides the opportunity for me, like during the, or anybody with access during the bomb threat, instead of emailing families, like who reads their email in the middle of the day? I realized that was an issue. Okay, some people do, but that was an issue. And so with this program, in one message, we can send it to email on the app, to text messages, phone message, with one click of a button. Well, several clicks, but one message can go out in several ways. And so we feel that the community is asking for clearer, faster communication, and I think this is an area that we need to move in. I admit, we looked at this program a couple years ago, and I said, I don't like to spend money, but it's time that we have to have a tool that we can communicate quickly and efficiently with our families and our community. So we will continue to look into the programs and find one that best fits our district. Safety is another area that we've talked about. So at the last board meeting that day, we had our bomb threat, and the next morning we met with, we met with Randy Hayden came to the meeting, the sheriff's department, Detective Wilson. I can't remember. It seems like eons ago now, but Dan Rankin, the mayor, was there as well. And no, so I think it was, and Miss Christopherson joined us, and we talked about what went well, what do we need to improve on from more of the agency level perspective. That Friday, as a staff, we met and discussed what went well, what areas do we need to improve on. We took tons of notes, sticky notes, gathered that information, and brought it to the safety committee. And the safety committee then broke out that information to improve our protocols when dealing with emergency situations. So just so you know, we are always looking at our protocols. Every time we have a drill, every time we have an incident, we think, how can we improve on this? And so we are updating that information. I've had questions. Well, what did you find out? Where did it come from? I have not heard back yet. I did reach back out to the sheriff's department, but they haven't heard anything from the FBI. I have not heard anything back yet either. Once we know something, I will communicate that out to the public. But again, there were several schools in our state that were also given a a bomb threat that day. So it just makes us wonder.
I think what we really found out is no matter how well things run, not everyone's going to be happy.
No, but you're right. You know, there were things we could have done differently, and I think it's really important that we, recognize that. I made a decision to call it a drill to get the students over there calmly, but then I told them exactly what was happening once we were all in the building. There's a million ways that things can go, but know that every time we make a decision, anytime that we go through a procedure like this, that we stop and we reflect, and we want everyone's feedback, positive or not, because it makes us think about different scenarios. It makes us think about how we could look at things differently. And so we do want that feedback. But in the end, yes, not everyone's going to be happy, but I want to make sure that the decisions we make are sound decisions. Discipline. Yes. Ms. Christopherson mentioned the vaping. It is an issue. Anytime we can determine who it might have been in the bathroom, we do talk to those students. We do a search if possible. We can't say they were guilty of anything, but there is high suspicion. We are doing our best to curb it. And that's all I can. There's a limit to what we can search. There's a limit. We have restricted bathroom use. We have changed bathroom use. It hasn't really curtailed the use. So I'm hoping with the education that Ms. Higginbotham can provide, that will really help. And just to continue me and Ms. Christopherson nagging the students, not just letting it pass by, but continuing. If you're going to interrupt learning by stopping or calling people out on the bathroom issues, and we're going to interrupt your time and have you come talk to me. So hopefully they'll get the picture that we're not going to give up on them, that we want them to stop, that it's important for their health. And we do communicate to families as soon as we can if we had that discussion. We're also really looking at our handbooks as we deal with different discipline issues, talking to each other, making sure that we're as much on the same page as possible, but each situation is different, and trying to be as consistent as possible when dealing with behaviors and taking comments that students make, their actions very seriously, and dealing with it at an age appropriate level as soon as possible. And I'm happy to say, I was very excited that on Friday, the 13th, our family engagement volunteers, a couple of them are over here, worked with North County Family Services, and they hosted the first teen night in a long time, a long time. And I was happy to hear, I was unable to attend, but I was happy to hear that like 70 students attended. And it sounded like it was a great time. And I look forward to collaborating and having those events for our students in the future. Just a safe, fun place to go with parameters as well to keep them safe. One thing on the facilities end of things, kids might have to help me on this. We are currently down one boiler at the high school. So Apollo was here with a team of engineers and electricians to address the failing. It was a breaker, not a breaker.
Short is what they think caused it.
Yeah. And so we will keep you posted, but we had a conversation yesterday with Apollo in a Zoom meeting and made it clear that this needs to be addressed. It needs to be taken care of. And they were up here today. So we're hoping they are looking into all avenues. This boiler was worked on in April as well, last April. There were issues with it. So
In the same area.
yeah, same area. So
These have been running now for what, about a year now?
yeah, September of 2024. In April, there was an issue, similar area, and now it failed. So I just want you to be aware we are addressing it. I think that's it.
Okay. Any questions? No? All right. Financial and enrollment report?
So the enrollment table is on page 24. The comparison to last year on page 25. You can see we're down from last year by about 11 students. And the chart is on page 26. We talk about this trend quite a bit in terms of budgeting. So we're funded based on the average annual enrollment. And so far we budgeted for 418, and so far our average is still 426. But because that trend is going downward much more than we've seen in previous years, that average is going to catch up to us where we have a lower number. We do not want to be below that red line where we budgeted, because that's going to start impacting our budget being in balance.
It's a similar trend to what was in 2024, except it was a little bit later, how it dropped between February and March.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that will tick back up as we move forward with the rest of the year, but we'll see what happens. The fund balance trend is on page 27. That's going as expected because, like I said, we're still above what I budgeted in terms of the average annual enrollment. So that's all on track.
Altering the agenda and moving to public comments on agenda items. Do you have a list over there, Billy?
Just do the ones that have to do with anything on the agenda, and then save the other ones for later.
And I can't read your writing. What is your topic?
Non-agenda.
Non-agenda item.
Non-agenda. Okay, perfect. So everything is levy.
Okay. Want me to, are we using timer? Or
Yes. Since we have 2 minutes. PJ?
Move up here just so that, everyone knows that I'm coming up with my different hat on. I'm coming up with a community hat on rather than a classified staff hat. So that, I'll just step up here and that'll make that easier. And I'm extending a, request for information and some communication and, a small request for clarity in regard to a levy survey topic that came up in a levy meeting a week ago or something like that. And it surfaced and it was asked that the district to provide a board opening for Soxhawtla in hope of promoting communication and collaboration with the district. I'm not really sure if that is exactly how I heard it, but I'm embracing that topic in this dialogue. I want to embrace the opportunity to see more involvement from all the community members from a diverse parallel, for sure. I have often said that I might run. I might campaign. I want a seat there at the board table, a voice in the same someday that I might someday run for an open seat so as to represent folks like me, represent folks in my like social status, which is poverty level working in a school district, and feeling the same levy feelings that everybody feels. In a spiritually grounded way, I'm kind of a well nut. I have a positive mindset. I'm a single woman. I own a home and a business. And I have a lot of gifts to share. And I have a lot of strengths to share with all the students and my peer educators and my administrators. So as having a place at this table where you people are listening and helping us in the community, it opens up. When the seats open, then you run. And so I first and foremost want to applaud McKinsey right here. I'm going to take my opportunity and to speak my piece as a community member in a levy situation, but I want to applaud McKinsey for her detailed ability to keep this district tight, keep our heads above the water. My sister retired 35 years in Douglas County in Nevada, and they are currently $5 million in the hole. They're cutting 60 plus people off of their staff. And they're consolidating 3 elementaries. And they passed the levy. They're in between the levy, and they were $5 million in the hole and doing these horrible cuts. We're not there. We're seeking a small levy to make this work as a community. We are on top of our budget. We are united, and we can do this small task as a community. I truly believe that. And I want to also continue to cultivate my faith in Tracy Frank in my community position, as well as my leader position here at the school. And in disclosing, or out of confidentially, but I might disclose a little bit out in confidentially, but confidentially is important. Confidentiality is very important in a school district. It's imperative. It's imperative.
All right, wrap it up, PJ.
I will.
Thank you.
Yep. All community members here and online, please embrace the opportunity that when a seat opens, you too can run, and you may well be the next great contributor to education, knowing that these 10 shoes are very hard to fill.
Thank you, PJ.
I'm not so sure that was
Sue, I'm assuming that's
Yes.
you. Okay, Sue H, come on.
I just wanted to voice a few things about how great it was to grow up in this community and how great it is to work here and how nice it is to be able to teach here where I grew up, coach, and still see a lot of my friends. And it's a good feeling. And it's a good feeling when we all come together for kids. You know, some of the greatest things we've done and seen involves kids being successful. And that doesn't come easily. Those kids work for it, parents work for it, community works for it, community really supports them. This levy, it was a little bit different than some of the other levies that I've gone through in all my years here. And it was some more negative feelings. Sometimes people spent time doing negative things instead of taking that same, if they feel something negative, working to improve it rather than just complaining. That takes effort. That takes getting off your soapbox and actually doing something. Which most people who are here, because we're a small community, they all strive to help one another. They all strive to help in the community, strive to help at school. If anybody has questions about what's going on at school, they know that we have open doors. Come check in at the office first.
Yeah.
And then come into our rooms and see what's actually going on. So you can see that we're working. We're really working. And it takes a lot of effort. And people just, there was some information that was out there. And people didn't mean to be misinformed. They just didn't go to a meeting or didn't have the courage to ask the questions. We're an open book at the school. So anybody can come and ask questions, and they keep having community meetings. And I know I had a couple questions from my kids, and I passed them on. And Cindy was really helpful, and we're an open book. We don't have secrets. We're a community-run entity, and we're alive because of the community. We're a part of the community. We are the community, and we want everybody to be happy. We want people to be happy. We want kids to be successful. We want to find ways to work together instead of spending energy, tearing things down or bad talking this person, bad talking that person. We're more healthier. Our kids are more successful when everybody's getting along and the kids see it. So I just want to compliment everybody that I heard that was really working so hard. We've got board members that are working so hard, and ones that maybe not. Maybe they can work harder next time. But I think we need to come together more because our community needs it. Our school needs it. Our kids need it.
Thank you. Kathy?
Okay. I have very mixed feelings about this levy. And the reason is because we have people in our community who are on fixed incomes, and this includes families who aren't able to pay more in taxes. We have retired people whose money has to last them for a lifetime, however long that is. They aren't able to have lifetime payouts on their retirement. They have to live on what they've saved. And it's a scary thing when you're elderly and you run out of money. And when the money's gone, it's gone. And from talking to the firemen and the EMTs in this area, I hear a lot of really sad stories about some of our elderly and our poor. And so, yes, we are experiencing a lot of classroom disruptions. And one of our responses is to hire a behavioral specialist. So I called some of my teacher friends to ask what a behavioral specialist is and what they do, and was told that this person evaluates the child and makes a plan to be carried out by the teacher. But sometimes it's difficult for teachers if they have 2 or 3 disruptive children in a classroom to carry out the plans for each child when they're already so taxed. So I think we need to concentrate on reducing the volume of preventable crisis rather than making a plan to, let me start that over. Reducing the volume of preventable crisis would be a better plan than waiting until we need a behavioral specialist. Upstream design is better than downstream crisis management. If an airplane had a structural flaw, hiring more flight attendants would not be a fix for the problem. And so I would like to see us really think outside the box, what we can do to help manage, to prevent crisis to start with. And so when we're looking at hiring a behavioral specialist, some things that we should consider is what changes will be put in place to prevent the need for behavioral changes in the future. And how do we measure reductions in suspensions and referrals and special education and absenteeism? So what's the tool? How are we going to measure that we're getting what we pay for? And then are we funding downstream response rather than redesigning the system that produces childhood trauma? Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Dale Johnson?
I'd like to start by a question. In the last 3 or 4 years, the households here, have you guys had to cut back on what you spend? Have you had to make decisions on what food you buy? Whether or not you subscribe to a magazine? Whether or not you go out to dinner? Have you had to make cuts in activities in areas of your life that are normal activities? And if the answer to that question is yes, and we're supposed to be a community that represents the community as a whole, we have to acknowledge the plight of its citizens. And if we go forward without acknowledging that, expecting people to come up with money when they've already made cuts, when they've already been forced to the wall, and then bracket that or underscore that with the outcome that we're seeing in our educational process, particularly in the elementary school theater of the kids and how well they perform. If anybody here called a plumber to fix a toilet issue and only 17 or 15% of the time it was effective, how many times would you call that plumber back? How many times would you recommend that plumber to your neighbor? So outcome, particularly when a community is in a declining state of ability to have excess money to supply needs for these kind of programs, outcome is a big concern. When you have discretionary income, how you spend the money and the outcome that you get isn't as critical. But as that discretionary money decreases, you pay more and more attention to what you're getting with that and for that money. And so what I see here, I see a community as voiced by people online and other concerns in other areas, realtors, other people's. We live in an area that is declining in its ability to put forth these funds. We're living in an area where people have had to make decisions in their own households and cut back. I'm not against money for education myself, personally. I think that if everything was done right, education across the board, all the way through college, should be free. But at the same time, I think it should be with criteria, results. And so if I'm being asked or I'm being forced to cut back, and how many in this community are not being forced to cut back? There's excesses in my life that I've already made those changes. And the outcome is part of that. What is the most important thing? What's the most important thing in my household? What's the most important thing, not only in my household, but forward in the community and what we're turning out in the results of our students?
All right, Joe.
At the time.
Thank you very much. Bridget?
I'm Miss Gloom and Doom. I want to present to folks, and you guys are just going to have to put up with it, the levy facts if it fails. We don't get a second chance. We don't pass it, there will be cuts made. to the tune of $950,000, period. So, just so you realize, you don't pass this levy, there's gonna be cuts made. Some people have said, let's get rid of the sports program. That's $350,000. I'm a mathematician, and I do know that still leaves $600,000 that we have to cut out of this budget. I work at the Forest Service. I budget every year for my trail crew, and that dictates how many people I can hire and have on for that season. I know what it means to budget, and I know what it means to stay within a budget. I know the biggest cost of my budget is not my supplies, but each and every one of those people I hire. What do you think is going to happen if you vote no when this levy goes down? You have $600,000 you have to pull out, and I'll tell you where it's going to start. There's going to be people losing jobs. I'm not telling you who, but you're losing jobs in this town, jobs that are already hard to come by. And they're halfway decent paying jobs. We can argue whether they're good or bad. I'm not going to go into that. But you're looking at just cutting everything out of the programs here. Is that really what you want to do for your school? If it is, I'm going to tell you something about growing up. I've been here for a lot of years. Some of you who are 40 and younger, you've had me. You've had me for classes. And I'm going to tell you right now, I voted for every levy. And I voted because of one thing. I really believe in the generations that are coming after me. If you vote no, you know what I'm going to think of you? I'm going to think you're selfish. Because there were older people who didn't have the money back when I was growing up that still voted for these levies and still supported the school system. That's the least you can do. The levy committee heard you. You can't afford too much of a raise. We asked for too much. I was on the levy committee, so I didn't set it though. But that said, the point is this. You vote no this time, you are definitely going to affect the school. And you can tell all the students, the ones who don't get sports and stuff like that, I'm going to send them to your door and they can thank you for it.
Okay. That was all of the agenda items.
All right, thank you.
Now we're moving on to some policy review.
Okay. So last month we read and reviewed policy 1815. So we're doing our second reading of policy 1815. It's just a revision.
And I normally the copies aren't in the current packet, but I put it in there because there's been a lot of talk about it. So I want to make sure everyone knows what the current version is. So if you want changes, you know what it looks like.
And the copy in January has the red strike throughs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's in this current packet too. Yeah.
Well, I would still like to see the modifications that I was hoping to get in there.
And that's been the discussion. So the board needs to make their decision.
Yeah, I was asking that up in the first paragraph, after it says, "On the laws of Washington State," I would like to see "and the federal government" added in there. And saying at the bottom paragraph, to me this is, I know you said that it's redundant, but you know, we can either add that or we take out the laws of Washington State, because that would be redundant also. So to me, it's, you know, either way, We can pull one out or we can add the other.
This is a decision for the board.
Anybody else have any comments or suggestions?
I like it the way it stands on page 36.
I agree. Mark?
It's redundant, but I'm okay with it. I'll go with it. But it does seem redundant.
I think my whole purpose is because we're currently seeing all kinds of RCWs in Olympia being passed that violate federal law. There's quite a few different lawsuits going on, not just in our state, but around the country regarding this. So, yeah, like I said, I'm really bothered with the fact of what they're doing. When they tell us to follow only their laws, or we risk the consequence of civil penalties, recall petitions, or forfeit of office. So we violate federal law, or they're gonna yank us out of office. This is basically what they're telling us.
All right, so that's 3 for keeping it the same, 4 for keeping it the same. So we need a motion to approve. A motion to approve.
Second.
Lucy?
Yes.
Adrian? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Okay. And new policy review. Starting on page 38.
38. So this is a policy that we realized we did not have in our, we did not have any, actually it's new for us, I believe.
Yeah.
And it is just a policy for accommodating students with adrenal insufficiencies. The nurse asked that we put this in place. And this is straight from the boss to him. And then recruitment, selection, and evaluation of staff. This is the policy 5000. You can see the changes are marked in red. So this is an update. So really not.
And then 5000P, they're deleting it. Was just deleting it. So,
Right.
yeah.
Too many, it's hard to have a procedure for hiring practices because districts are so varied. So we will look at those next month.
Okay, moving on. Agenda item, tiny house.
All right, so the tiny house is finished and it's sitting there. And the board needs to decide, and I just want to talk about it a little bit tonight, put it out on the table for the board to think about what you want to do with the tiny house. Originally, when it was first built or conceived, it was thought to be, was going to be used for housing for like staffing and maybe placed at the archery range, rented out at a cost to whoever rented it, but it would remain with the district for those purposes, providing affordable housing for one person. I mean, it is a tiny house. It's pretty. At this point, it also has been brought up that maybe it should just be sold because getting the permits, the permitting costs, the upkeep, septic, we're unsure of all the details of going into the archery range and accessing that old septic system. So there's two choices that the board needs to think about. At this time, it is ready to go. It's ready for a refrigerator and a cooking stove oven. It's plumbed for that. That's the only thing that it needs. So I'm just wondering if you guys want further information to make that decision, but I think we need to get it on the table and
An
get.
approximate idea of the value.
Let me throw this out there. As a building official, normally when you're bringing in a tiny house or modular house, all the inspections are done through the manufacturer that through L&I. This has had no inspections done, which to me, putting that on property and renting it out would be a very big liability because we're breaking building codes. As the building inspector of the town, I could not give you an okay on that. You have to keep it in.
And we wouldn't do that.
We don't do that.
The facts here.
Right, no, I know.
And
I love what they did there. It's a great little home, but yeah, the legalities of it, has really kind of shut the door on me.
And I did reach out to L&I to ask those questions, and that's what they told me, is that if we want to put it here, that it would be up to our local building inspector to decide if they would approve it or not. If we sell it, then whoever buys it, where they want to locate it, it would be up to that jurisdiction. And so those are the options.
Is money from a sale like that go to the general fund?
I think it can. Let me check on that. There's rules, like if you use federal funds for something, that has to go back to that program. But because basic education funds were used for that, I think
donations.
And donations, yes. I think it can go back into the general fund, but let me double check on that. Get back to
We may
you.
need to check CTE because it went through the CTE program as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so it may have to go back into the CTE program.
I'll find that out.
Construction,
Vocational
education.
Yeah. So potentially it could perpetuate a tiny home building.
Or materials in a declining budget. But yes, I mean, I think there's a lot of factors involved when you become landlords as well. That was one of my concerns that we would have as a district, is maintaining, one more building, maintaining.
Pretty good authority. It's not gonna pass inspection.
Yeah. And I think that was something that at the time, it was during COVID, and we had no idea that it had to be inspected.
I'm glad they did it. I just think that we need to move out from under it. We need to sell it.
Okay. So I can get more information about the logistics of that and where the money can go and all that, and in the process for what that looks like. It would probably be like a bid situation to make sure that it's fair for anyone who's interested. And so I will get the details of that and I can bring it back to you all.
We could start at starting
fair market value or whatever.
And then
have a process.
If it is a bidding process, it'd be nice to know where the money can go because it'll encourage people to
Yeah.
buy projects.
Okay, I'll bring that back to you.
Okay, we'll put that on the agenda again for more discussion. I mean, it's been sitting there for a while, so another discussion.
All right. Going back to special ed.
Okay, I gotta find my thing. I've had it bouncing around. So this is your annual special education report to the board, I think every year at this time. So as of February 2026, so our February count, which was, I don't remember when, but I think I actually did it. Special ed enrollment was at 100. We had 100 students that we were serving with in special ed. Our district enrollment was 419 students, and that puts us at 23.8% special ed. So that's that top on the front page. On the front page. The box, the next box on the left-hand side is the numbers by grade level. So you can see we have some bubbles. We have 11 students with IEPs in second grade. So my guess is that's probably a third of the class. Tracy, is that about right?
Yeah.
10th grade has 11. And I'm thinking that's pushing more than, because I think there's 24, 25 in that 10th grade class. We have 8 seniors this year. So when we graduate, we'll be down 8 students. All of them, I believe, are graduating. I don't know exactly which ones they are, they need off the top of my head. So that gets 100. We have 3 students in our Birth to 3 program, which aren't in our count. They're served through Sherwood services, but they will end up eventually coming to us when we have to have an IEP in place by their 3rd birthday. So they will be coming to us. So in the next one is numbers by caseload. So we have 3 special education teachers and 1 district level case manager who works on all of the paperwork this year. So does all the IEPs, sets all the meetings, does observations, some progress data monitoring, those types of things. The 3 special education teachers are Ashley Antonio, so she teaches pre-K, well actually TK5. Then there's Jennifer, and she has 27 students on her, actually 28 students on her caseload, because we have 1 student who is aged 3 to 5, but who is not attending the district. So Ashley has 28 students on her caseload, so 28 students she sees. 6th to 8th grade is Jennifer Stewart, and she sees 22 students at the middle school level. 9th through 12th and aged 18 to 21, we do not have anybody aged 18 to 21. Lisa Wright has 29 students. She'll have 30 as of this month because we added another student. Speech only students. So within that 100, there are some, how can I say this? So Marissa does speech. There's lots of students whose primary disability is not communication. It might be autism, but they're also getting speech services. It might be specific learning disabilities, but they're also getting speech services. So Marissa actually sees quite a few students. You can see her down at the bottom, you can see her caseload by month. So if you added those up, that's how many IEP students that she serves. So it's not only for speech only services, but she's also providing services to students who fall into Jennifer and Ashley, and not so much Lisa. Usually by the time they get to high school, they're out of speech, but there is some social pragmatics, expressive, receptive language that gets served in there, but articulation is mostly the lower grades. So our speech services, our speech caseload is getting pretty high. Lisa's speech or caseload is getting pretty high. It does help that we do have Eileen Verson now, who is acting as the district case manager, who is doing all of the paperwork in the IEPs. Without her, these 3 would be doing IEPs, IEP meetings, progress monitoring, observation. They'd be doing all of those things as well as teaching. So the other, I'll get to it in a minute. So that next box below is the numbers by primary disability category. And included in that at the bottom, so you can see how many students we have with autism, how many have communication disorders, developmental handicap preschool, all of those things you can see there. At the very bottom, you can see the section 504. We have 39 students who, on top of the IEP, the students with IEPs, we have 39 students that we're serving with 504 accommodations. Right above that, the specific learning disability category, SLD, that is by far our highest disability category, which is not unlike any other school district in the state. SLD is kind of the catch-all, and we don't really know why they're they're not progressing. There's a disconnect between their cognitive level where they should be able to and where they are. They are going to be making a change into how we qualify students with SLD, which is what specific learning disability is. SLD, they're going away from the RTI model to MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support. RTI is response to intervention. Okay. And I'll give more information for you that's later. I wasn't anticipating talking about this, but it just came out. I don't know. It happens sometimes. Things just come out. But multi-tiered systems of support is really, it's going to be a lot more work for our teachers and for the special education staff, administrators. It's going to be a lot more work for everybody. And that's coming down. I believe it has to be in place by 2028. So I'll get you more information on that and I'll share it in a future. Yeah,
Nothing.
2 years. Okay, and then the bottom box is their caseload by month. So you just kind of see how many IEPs we have each month. In September, we have 11 IEPs in September, IEP meetings. Tracy and I can't do all of these IEP meetings.
Cindy, you might want to explain what all is involved in getting and carrying through an IEP, because I'm not sure everyone understands how much is involved in that.
There's a lot.
First for the evaluation.
So it really starts in the classroom with teachers noticing a problem and providing accommodations and not modifications, but accommodations, and trying out strategies like the small groups is an intervention. LAB, Learning Assistance Program. I always want to call it language acquisition. I don't know where that came from, but. So LAP is an intervention, trying those classroom-based interventions. When that doesn't work, you need to go to the next level. So more intensive. If the student doesn't respond to that and doesn't start making progress, then you go to I think we need to refer this child for special education evaluation. Okay, at that point, then the data has to be presented to the special education team. That includes parents, school psychologists, and when we do these MDT meetings, we call them MDT, multidisciplinary team meetings. When we hold those meetings, it consists of usually an administrator, if we're not in another IEP meeting, school psychologist, our OT, occupational therapist, our speech language pathologist, our
Classroom teacher,
parent,
sometimes counselor.
sometimes the counselor, yep. So we try to get all of these people together and make a decision. Is there enough evidence to show that the student isn't making progress with the interventions that they're receiving? If that's the case, then we will do a special education referral and we will do an evaluation. The evaluation consists of the school psychologist, or it could be the school psychologist who does academic testing, cognitive, adaptive testing. Then there's the occupational therapist who works for motor. She tests for motor,
Sensory.
motor, sensory, that's fine motor, gross motor, sensory, some adaptive as well. And then the speech language pathologist assess for not only articulation, so how well you speak, but also expressive perceptive and social pragmatics, depending on where the needs are indicated for the student. The testing takes a while. It does. Right now, all 3 of our providers are virtual. We just can't offer enough time to attract people to come to Darrington on site. Our school psychologist has came on site once in this fall. She lives in Alaska, so it's not an easy jaunt. She's come in the fall and she'll be here again in March. So when she's down here in the States for different things, she tries to connect here. So when we do our child find screening this spring, she'll be on site being able to have that one-on-one interaction with the littles, because it's usually the littles that come through child find. So then once that's done, then you have to meet, discuss the evaluation results. Does the student qualify? Does the student qualify and in need of services? sometimes they qualify and they may not actually need services. That's usually not the case, but it can happen. So once that's done, once we made the decision that they qualify and they need services, then we have to do an IEP. So the IEP involves creating goals, accommodations, modifications, all based on the student needs, or the needs of the student, I should say. We reevaluate students every 3 years, if it's not been requested earlier. We do an annual review of the IEP every year. That's the word. So does that help, Janet?
Yeah, I think it just, that unless you had a child go through the IEP process, how would you know? But it is very time consuming. There's a lot of paperwork because all of it has to be documented, and that's where Eileen.
And even after the IEP is done, you still have to progress monitor the goals. You have to monitor their goals for progress. You have to keep track of those things. You have to make sure that the teachers know what accommodations are to be provided, how to provide those accommodations, and then make sure that they have all of their things that they need, like talk to text headphones, noise canceling headphones, weighted vests. Some of our kids have weighted vests. Some of our kids have the little rubber bands on the chairs to keep their feet busy because they gotta keep moving. Fidgets, all the things. So if it's put in the IEP that they need headphones, we need to provide them with noise canceling headphones.
And also IEPs affect testing.
Yes.
In a large way, because it will be written into an IEP if that child needs special adaptations, which may entail a lot more adult monitoring when they're doing it.
Yes, so right now we have what's called the Washington Alternative Assessment. It's called the WAAIM. Districts are only allowed to have 1% of their special education population taking the alternative assessment. Every other special education student receiving IEP services will have to take their state testing at the same grade level as their peers. Sometimes they get accommodations, but it's not much. They can have read aloud. They can have talk to text or speech to text. They can have a smaller environment, but that's about it. And when they're testing, if they're poor readers, if they are poor readers, they're not reading at grade level, but they have a reading passages read to you accommodation. Because we're testing reading comprehension, that passage can't be read to them. They have to read it themselves. But if it's a math problem and we're assessing math skills, then the problem can be read aloud to them. If it's a writing prompt that they're doing, the passage can be read aloud and they have to do their own writing. But very rarely do we offer scribes or true read alouds. It's usually the computer reading it aloud and talk to text. WAAIM this year, I believe we have 2. Mine and I think one of yours. 3rd grade? I think there's 2 this year. There's 2 this year, so we will be above that 1% threshold. I'm sorry, we can't help that.
We have to do what's right for this student.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, and all of the special education student test scores are in with all of the test scores that are reported by the state.
And this is a quarter to a third of every classroom. I think people really need to know that.
That's very important.
Thank you, Cindy. I'm
You're
sorry to
welcome.
make
Thank
it go longer. you
And
guys.
thank you for asking the questions. Because sometimes, thank you for asking the questions. I appreciate that. On the back of your paper, you can see, I want to point out this top one right here, especially versus 2026. We've completed 10 reevaluations. We have 13 of those remaining. 13 remaining. And we have 18 new evaluations in that or box.
it just, because it's every 3 years, it's on a cycle, and sometimes you don't have very many evaluation, and sometimes you do.
And so think about that for a second, because if we've completed 10, we have 13 remaining, we have 18 more new. That's 23, 30, 41, coming up in 3 years. It'll be less than that. We're guessing 38 because we'll have students leave, we'll have students that come
Graduate.
in, we'll have students that graduate, you know, they'll be, so we guesstimated a little bit lower than that, but our school psych right now is beside herself. She is doing a lot of work and she's running out of time to do all of these
And
evaluations.
what I appreciate about the process is that the families come together with the staff and we really look at the whole child and what can we do to support the student. This isn't just a rush process. Sometimes it takes quite a while, but we really in the end want to make sure that we are providing every support possible for our students to be successful. And so I do really enjoy the evaluation meetings when we sit down and talk about the student. We learn a lot about a student, and I think it's a great process, but it is time consuming. But in the end, we need to do what's right for our students, and that's part of it is going through this process.
And that bar graph below, I want to point out the scale because it does not start at 0. It starts at 15. Because if it starts at 0, the graph is all squished together at the top. So point that out. The scale though is the same. It's 1%. So there's no differentiation there. But this is just the special education percentages from 2022 to the current. I can show you. So you can see here where the different lines, I mean, we're at that top blue line is us right now this year. We're the highest that we've ever, well, the highest we've been since I've been. And on one hand, it's good that we're identifying students that need services. That's a high percentage. So our lowest percentage since 2022 has been 16.1% in November of 2023. Our highest was in December at 24. And a lot of this has to do with our FTE, head count for our FTE as well. How many students we have to really adjust the percentage. So that's your special efforts work for this year.
Any other questions? All right, athletic report.
All right, I have some numbers here for you. First, I want to point out the eligibility requirements for our athletes. WIAA, Washington Interscholastic Athletic Association, their regulations state that students can be failing one class and still participate in well, they can practice, but competition. Thank you. Sorry, it's getting late. So in competition, we had that for a while, and we learned that students would go, okay, well, I'm going to pass all these classes, and I'm going to fail this one, and I can still play. And we're like, that's not what standard we want our students to be held to. So we do not allow our students to fail a class. Every 3 weeks, we have an eligibility check. If they are passing at the eligibility check, they are good for 3 weeks. If they are failing, they have a week to make it up. Within that week, they participate in practices, but they cannot travel with the team or participate in competition. So we have a stronger or a more stringent code for our students. So just wanted to comment on that. This year, girls basketball, it was small but mighty. We had a team of 9, but only 8 of them could actually participate due to an injury. It was a young team. They showed great growth, determination, and grit. And I really look forward to watching them grow on the court as we move through the years. Boys basketball had a total of 19 players, so we were able to have both a varsity and a JV squad. They had a great season. They went to the first round of tri-districts. I'd like to thank our head coaches, our head coach. He was the head coach for both, Jeff Gastineau, and then girls assistant Caress Baker and boys assistant Coach Pat Robinson. For cheer, we had 6 cheerleaders. They did an amazing job under the direction of Coach Helen Ross. Wrestling, we had a productive season with many wins and pins. Like that. I was in a class today when they were doing rhymes. If I'm counting correctly, we had 7 male athletes and 7 female athletes that finished the season. For girls, we took 2 alternates and another earning a spot at state. And right, yeah. Okay. And then 4 boys went to state. We ended up with 2 trophies, one at 3rd place for Creed Wright and one at 7th place for Nathan Elliott. Hard competition this year. I want to thank head coach Rich Groh, assistant coach Brock Austin, and the volunteers, Kevin Wesson, Blake Austin. I think there were a couple others, but thank you to all the volunteers. And we're proud of how all of our wrestlers and how all of our athletes presented themselves this year. That's it. Any questions?
Resolution 450-0226.
That's page
43.
My book is all flipped around. This is a yearly resolution that we need to make if we want to participate in WIA. It has to be turned in by, I think, early June, somewhere in there. So this is just a resolution that we will delegate authority to WIAA for our athletics. And we follow their board of directors and their guidelines for interscholastic activities.
We need a motion to approve the delegation,
I
please.
make that motion.
Second?
Russ?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No? Okay, pass.
Data review, I'm assuming that's what these.
Yes, I gave you our diagnostic results for the winter. This is the entire district. So I would like to start with math. When I look at the one in the top, it says school subject. This is math. As you can see, yes, our scores are not where we want them to be, but I want to focus on the growth because this chart shows the growth that our students are making from fall to the most recent, which is the winter diagnostic. For the K through 5, that winter diagnostic was taken in January. For middle school, high school, that was taken in December, just for time reference. So as you can see, kindergarten, the growth, 25% more of the students are at grade level. No one is in the red in kindergarten, and it moves through that in some grades, we don't see a lot of more students in the at grade or above grade level, but we see the decrease in the students that are below. And so they're moving from below grade level into approaching grade level. And that's the trend we want to see. We want to see the movement from the red to the yellow to the green. It's interesting. I think I need to, because I don't know how many of you were here at our meeting last Tuesday where we talked about the test scores. And yes, they're not where we want. And we also had students admit that they don't really put their effort into these assessments. There's not a lot of buy-in for some of the students, especially at the middle school and high school level. I'm not sure how to get them to have buy-in in the assessments and for them to understand. It may be that Ms. Christopher might have that.
I don't have an idea for that, but one thing that we had talked about as a staff just recently that I know I hadn't really thought about But for the high school student, for the elementary and middle school students, they're using the iReady curriculum. They are used to the formatting of the questions, the content. They're used to that. The high school doesn't use it. And it's very different than what the curriculum that we're using there at the high school. So for them to do the diagnostic test, we really question the validity and reliability of the test being done at the high school. So that was just something that I wanted to share I meant to share with you earlier, Tracy. I'm sorry, so I'm sharing it now.
That's all right. We're transparent.
But,
And
it was really something that we had a lot, you're right. Our questions in our math curriculum is so different than the iReady, and we're doing the iReady diagnostic, which is tied to and associated with that other curriculum. And they don't have iReady curriculum for 9-12. They don't. They just have the diagnostic.
But I think with any assessment tool, like MAP was not connected to any curriculum.
We use the reading for diagnostic. We don't use the reading curriculum.
Right, and the same for the elementary. So I think anytime an assessment is given, when it is a dipstick in time, a moment in time, that's what it is. It's showing us where they are on that day. With that being said, these scores need to be higher. I agree with that. But this is on the day that the fifth graders took this test, what was happening or the fourth graders or the third graders were taking the test, what was happening that day. Many things go into how someone performs on a test. But again, that being said, looking at our data from the SBA and the data from our mid-year and then our spring data for the SBA, that will be a good comparison to see if the changes we have made are impacting the student growth. So again, this data shows what they scored in the fall to now. This can be broken out for each child, each classroom, and each child. And that's where I think the benefit is for being a smaller district. We can look and go across the spreadsheet and see what students are making growth. Are they flatlined on this, but while in their DIBELS, which is another reading assessment, they really excelled. So you can do some comparison on assessments to see if across the board their scores are low, or is it the testing module that they're low and they're making growth in other areas.
Tracy, up on the domain,
Right.
numbers and operations.
Algebra,
What's MS?
measurement,
Okay, and then geography.
not geography, geometry.
Sorry, yes, that.
Right, and so numbers and operations is actually measurement and numbers and operations are our strongest domains. We're algebraic thinking, and of course, this is in mid-year. A lot of students haven't reached their geometry
has not come yet.
unit yet. So that sometimes is an issue of when is a test given, when is the curriculum taught. And it's similar for, I wrote some stuff down. I wrote notes, sorry. Also, if you look at the reading one, this is our third year of implementing at the K-5, in math. It's our third year implementing our curriculum. So as with students, it's a new program, teachers, a new program that we're getting through our professional development. Every year, the teachers are getting more fluent in the curriculum as well. So these hopefully will have that impact on positive test scores. So looking at our math district-wide, this is a district report, 6% of our students, there are 6% less students below grade level. We have about the same in the approaching, and 8% more that are at grade level or above. So that 6% kind of moved its way up. For reading, it's very similar, about the same growth. So we'll wait on our spring scores and see what the growth was from fall to spring. Hoping that the interventions that we put in place at the middle school and elementary levels will improve those scores. And having maybe deeper conversations with our high school students on the importance of doing their best on these assessments. We can't recognize students. We can't give any kind of recognition for, we could give them recognition for growth, but we have to be very careful, because if we recognize a group of students for making growth, that means this group of students didn't make growth. And you're publicly then sharing personal information. And that's not our intent of having this data. Our intent is not to make a student feel bad because they didn't make growth. It is for us to look at this data and say, why isn't this student making growth? What do we need to do to support this student? And diving deeper into their individual, which the teachers do. They take the individual data and look at how can we group these students to support them in their areas that they are struggling in. It's not just to have a test score to talk about, but it is to learn, where is this student strong in reading and where is the student struggling, and what do we need to do to help them improve. And that's what the high school is doing with some of their small group work. That's what the elementary and middle school has done with their work on at the end of January. We focused on that, and that's why we put the changes in place. Phonics is an area we need to improve on that will trickle down to all other areas. So if you have if you have questions, you can ask me now. If you guys want to look at it and come talk to me about it, if anyone in the audience would like to come see this and talk about it, I'm happy to do so.
Any input that our student reps for next time, maybe, as to how students? I mean, I know they're not motivated for taking the test, but anything that you can give us that will help us to meet their needs.
Like I said, we don't really get anything out of it. So like students don't really see, like, you're not gonna get a grade if you try. So why try? And it's kind of like seen as like you're not cool if you do try.
Yeah.
And then there's like the pressure you see other people finishing. You're like, oh, I have to hurry and finish and just click through. And it takes so long. If you actually try, it takes like 3 hours. So you're stuck sitting for 3 hours. You do get breaks with practice, but it's just not fun. They don't really see a benefit for themselves from this. Like, why try? Kind of is how we see it.
Does it have to be done all in one day, or can it be split up?
It can be
It's
split up.
split up. If you don't-
Most of the kids want to try and finish.
They wanna do it all day.
That's why I get it done
Like
one.
sitting.
Yeah, and others will take a little bit longer, but most will get it done. As soon as one person finishes,
They all do.
That's everybody's like, I want to be done.
It's 3 hours. That's a long.
Because it's a if the more questions you answer, the harder the questions get.
Oh,
It's
so
adaptive.
It's
It's
so
adaptive.
it's not like
Right.
there's a certain amount of questions and
No.
then they're done.
Because they want to see how far can the student go.
Okay.
It really is to find out where are the student's strengths and where are the areas that they need to grow in. So it is adaptive. It changes for each student. So I don't know, maybe something that ASB can talk about is like, what can we do?
Our lesson went to each class as ASB because he's one of the peacekeeper of ASB. He went to each class and he was like, hey, this is actually important when we use this data. This is how like our community is viewing what we're being taught and if it's useful. And I don't know if it works. But
Well, just see if there's any feedback as to what could be done differently, and,
Because it doesn't matter if it's this assessment or the MAP assessment or
Yeah.
whatever assessment that we use, it's still going to be the same thing. So let's brainstorm on that.
about a dinner?
Mhm.
All good.
Better snacks, maybe.
All right. Resolution 451-226.
So
Talking about the levy options.
yeah, so on page 44 of the packet is just a placeholder, but then in your folders, I have the two resolutions that were done by our attorneys. So we also we talked about at the last levy community forum, the options, and the board kind of narrowed it down to option one of running it at the current amount, 950,000, no change in anyone's taxes, or running it at the 950,000 plus 150,000 to add a behavioral specialist position. And we put a survey out to the community to get some feedback on those options. I sent you those responses. We received 106 responses. 72.4% said to run it at the higher amount. 27.6% said to run it at the lower amount. That being said, we've had a lot of conversations since the last levy meeting. We talked about the total number of people who voted in the election was about 875, and this is 106. So there are a lot of people who aren't being represented here. The survey also didn't have an option for don't run a levy, so those opinions might not be reflected here. Some of the conversations that we've had have been about messaging, and it's so important for us to pass this levy because a double levy failure would be catastrophic for the district. People have said it's not worth the risk. Even though as much as I would love to add that position, and I think it could really help the district, is it worth the risk of potentially not passing the 950,000 that we have to have, that we currently have it in our budget. We have to be able to continue that revenue. So that's something that we've talked about. Also, it's a lot easier to say no new taxes than to say, well, a little bit of new taxes, but we really need it. That's a hard message to convey to people. And also wanting to make sure that the community knows that we did hear them. It was very clear feedback that we got from the community based on those percentages. I just looked at the number of levies that failed statewide. There weren't very many. We were among a few of those that failed. And we had by far the highest no vote of any of those levies in the state. So it was a very clear message. And so based on all of those things, even though the survey is saying 72% would prefer the higher amount, it's my recommendation at this point to go with the lower amount, the straightforward renewal, and say, this is no new taxes. This is maintaining what you're currently paying now. I think it's a clear message, and one that we can tell the community, we heard you. We know that you want us to work on making improvements without any additional money. One other thing I want to point out too, when we talked about that position, we talked about this a little bit in the levy, but not everyone was at all those meetings. Because the levies are on calendar years, this would start in 2027. So even if it was approved for that extra 150,000, next year we only get 75,000 of that. And that's if you collected 100% of your taxes, which we never do. So if we say, if you give us this money, we'll add this position. Well, we technically don't have enough money to add it for the full 26-27 school year. And that could be a PR issue if people are saying, hey, you said you do this, we don't have it. So that's something to keep in mind. A lot of different factors.
Right, and I think
consider.
Like Mackenzie said, we heard what the community stated. With just keeping it at the $950,000 because of inflation, like everyone else, we will still have to do some shifting and adjustments with our budget to make sure that we still balance our budget. And so even with keeping it at 950,000, we will need to look at the budget for next year, enrollment, costs of everything like everyone else, and make those adjustments to make sure that we, as always, have a sound budget going into next year. So I agree that, I mean, my recommendation to the board is the same, is to keep it as it is, no new taxes. This is a replacement levy. That's it, a replacement levy.
And I tend to agree with that. You know, I was first kind of leaning towards going to add a behavioral specialist, but after doing the research on exactly what a behavioral specialist is, you know, I've got a good friend who is a teacher, special ed teacher, and she furthered her degree to become a behavioral specialist. I'm wondering, do we have any teachers in our district that have done that, you know?
Well, the term behavioral specialist, I think we were using that as kind of we weren't looking at it had to be necessarily a behavioral specialist, unlike that Kathy mentioned, that was more like diagnosing and then but really a hands-on person that was there to support the students in the moment when they were having challenging behaviors
This would have been an added person, a floater that kind of went to different classrooms.
Or was available for students to come to support them. But at this point, I think we can, we need to focus on just a replacement levy.
No, and I agree 100%. Where I'm going though is because if I remember right, you said that we could maybe a year down the road run another levy to add. You know, I would say let's, you know, when you go back to this first survey, it's almost 33% voted no because of school performance.
Right.
So let's take serious steps to better our performance and show the public that we hear you and we're making steps forward. Let's get a year behind us, and then we can have the conversation. We've done this, now will you do this for us?
And I think that's a really valid point about not being able to hire the person at the beginning of the year. That's not going to go over well. I tend to agree with you.
I agree. So we need a roll call vote.
Yes. We have to have a motion first.
We need a motion to approve the continuation as is.
Second,
Rose?
Yes. Yes.
you sure?
Okay, Randy?
Yes.
Maggie? Yes. Janet? Yes. Jenny? Yes. Mari?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I say one thing before we move on to just, you know, we've been having a lot of conversations with the community lately, which has been really great to get that feedback. And I appreciate hearing that. One thing that has come up pretty consistently with the levy conversation is, you know, everyone is having to tighten their belts because of costs going up. And why doesn't the district have to tighten theirs? I want to make sure everyone is aware that we have made hundreds of thousands of dollars of cuts. We made significant cuts this previous year, which I personally think some of those cuts have led to situations that people were unhappy about when they were coming to the school board meeting. So I just want to make sure everyone knows that we do take the responsibility to balance the budget very seriously. And that is shown by the fact that we have not been under review by OSPI or under binding conditions. So we do take it seriously. We balance the budget. But that being said, those cuts do have an impact on obviously the staffing that we have. People are 80% of our budget. So when we have to make cuts, that's where we have to cut. It does have an impact and you can see it in the schools. So I just want to make sure everyone is aware that we hear that and we have been making cuts. So we're not insulated from that. So.
Okay. Now we're alternate levy for and against committee.
For and against.
Oh, it's me. Yes. Do we have anyone who's interested in being in the pro levy committee?
Is this to write it?
It's, yes, the statement for the voters pamphlet. Okay. Kelly Smith?
Lisa Rice.
Lisa? Okay.
And Angel Bates is not here tonight, but she also would like to be involved.
Christie. Okay. And the board would just need to make a motion to approve that.
We need a motion to approve that. All right, so move.
Second.
Roll. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, done.
And then is there anyone interested in being in the against, writing the against statement for the voters pamphlet?
I would like to have some input to that effect.
Dale Johnson?
So I've got a question. When we did the first levy, there wasn't an input like this to appoint the pro and cons.
We did.
Yes, there was.
We did. No one volunteered to be on the con committee, but just because we didn't approve it at the board meeting doesn't mean they weren't able to. So they were able to go to Snohomish County and yeah.
I don't remember voting.
We didn't vote on the con because no one volunteered, but we did vote on the pro.
No, it was a while. It was in December. You know, it was a while ago, like November.
November, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mackenzie, I know there's another person who wants to be on.
Okay.
It's Brandon Grist.
Okay.
Did he call you?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. He works nights, but he.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so you just
We
need a motion.
to approve that too. I so move.
I'll second
All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay.
So I'll just need contact information to forward you the instructions. So at some point I'll get that from you. And if Kathy, if you have that for Brandon, if you could share that. Or have him reach out to me. Inventory surplus.
Oh, no. School districts do not like to get rid of anything.
No. And yeah,
Then we have to move stockpiles of
yes,
junk.
yes. Creates a lot of issues when we're keeping things.
We still have DVD and VHS players.
Yes, VHS players, tube TVs, you know, all of these things, lots and lots of printers.
Some of those are novelty items and you're getting a lot of big bucks for those.
Yep. You know, I heard that. My experience has been when we try to keep them for surplus sales, no one shows up.
No.
And it's a lot of work to get them all set up for a sale and then not have anyone show up. So most of these items we're able to have recycled for free. A lot of the cords and printers, we have to pay by the pound to have those recycled. And I think that's part of the reason why we have so many that have been sitting here forever. They really take up a lot of space that we don't have room for. So the other thing that all of our tech people over the years, and including Heather, who we have currently, one thing they do is they take parts. So they'll keep old ones to take parts off of them for new ones. And some of these Chromebooks that we're getting rid of, it was hard to even pick it up. It's like it falls apart because they've taken everything off of it. So they have maximized the use of those items. This is truly garbage at this point. So.
All right, we need a motion to take out the garbage. I'll make that motion. I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
To the district,
None at this time.
Units and contracts.
The only one that's on here is, at the top, Jason Green was hired for the middle school basketball coach, replacing Jake McMillan.
Motion to approve?
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I have to go back and look. I'll check.
All right. Oh, sorry, it's your turn.
I guess that was personnel, right?
Yes.
And now we're going to public comments on non-agenda items. Tyler?
Good evening. My name is Tyler Boogard. Well, first I want to say thank you to the superintendent board for meeting with members of the general public and for taking my concerns seriously. I appreciate that you're handling this through the district process and legal review. I will follow your public comment guidelines and keep my remarks brief. I'm not here to debate anyone tonight, and I'm not here to reply to a social media thread online, line by line. I understand this is a business meeting held in the public, and the public comment period is for the board to listen and not for a question and answer session. Here's the context for why I'm speaking. In a public exchange with the board member, I asked a direct question about child safety, whether they would clearly condemn the sexualization of minors and anyone profiting from it. The response did not address my question clearly, and instead it was belittling as well as insulting and dismissive of my concerns. I followed the district guidelines and submitted a concern to the superintendent in writing with supporting documentation. This matters because the school board sets expectations for the district, often by example. We teach students to refrain from name calling, to communicate respectfully, and take responsibility for their words. Their community should be able to expect the same professionalism from those entrusted with governing our schools, especially on issues involving child safety. Accountability begins with self-accountability. To be clear, this is not about forcing anyone to say specific words or adopt a particular ideology. It is about whether the board members can engage in the public with basic respect, clarity without belittling the person who raised the concern. The public, when public conduct falls short of the standards, we ask students and staff trust erodes. And when trust erodes, it becomes hard for families to be confident in the board's judgment and leadership. WSSDA's Washington School Board standards emphasize professional and personal conduct, ethical behavior, and effective communication and accountability. Those principles are the foundation of a credible school governance. So my request is simple. Please complete your review, state clearly what standards of conduct the board expects of its members, and apply those standards consistently. And if any board member feels unable to meet those standards in a public-facing communication, I urge them to reflect seriously on whether continuing to serve is in the district's best interest. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, superintendent comments.
Sorry. I think I've kind of already addressed the behavior specialist piece. I wanted to clarify it was tried to be more upstream than having a true specialist come in to address behavior, but really supporting the students in the moment when they needed support. But again, I think the board has made the best decision for the district and just going through with the replacement levy as is. And I agree, our scores do need to improve. The one thing we have to keep in mind is that we're not working with a mechanical piece of equipment. We're working with children who are changing on a daily basis. They are there's so many variables involved in the work that we do that every day is a new day. When you walk into the classroom when we're in the classroom and a student walks through the door, When I'm at the front door and I watch students come in, I'm thinking, okay, do I need to step in and, already does that child need some support to even start the day on a positive note? Everything is such a variable that we have to just be on our toes all the time. But these are children, they're not.
Paperclips.
Huh?
Paperclips.
All right, I think it. And I do want to stress, please share with the community if there are any questions regarding the levy. If there are any questions about what we're doing in the school, if there's any question that you have, I don't care what it's about, please do not hesitate to reach out. I am not always available in that moment, but you can call. There's everyone has access to my calendars to schedule appointments with me. I'm available by phone. I'm available in person. It may take a little bit of time to make that appointment, but it will happen. So please really encourage the community to reach out to us if there are questions. We want to make sure we have the facts out there. We want to be transparent. And I'd rather sit down and have a conversation with a family or a community member about what they're upset about and what they would like to see changed than never hear it. Because just like with the safety committee, we're always looking about, we may not always make everyone happy, but we need to hear all the voices so that we can make the best decisions for our students and the community. And we can't do that if we don't have the information, if we're not able to provide the facts to the people who need to hear the facts. That's my comment. Thank you.
Board comments? Anybody want to go first?
I can jump in.
Go.
It was a great day today. Sarah's the SAP. So Sarah and I worked really closely together. We were able to take a few of our Darrington students up to a regional youth summit up in Cedar Woolley today. So it was two students that I haven't really worked closely with, but just seeing them work with other kids from Cedar Woolley, from Burlington, from Orcas, from Lopez, it did give me hope. And it was a leadership conference. So just our Darrington kids are great. So if you haven't actually, had that one-on-one time with them, just sit with them. These kids are amazing and they are our future leaders. So and I know the teachers, I know you guys all know them. So, but yeah, just getting them out of that classroom setting and seeing them work with complete strangers and having they were a little uncomfortable, but it was really good for them. So, and it was good for us. So yeah, it was fun. And they got to learn some new leadership skills today. So yay for them. Yeah. And they'll probably report on it to all of you later. So yeah.
Randy?
Okay. I got a bunch of stuff, but we'll just start by saying I didn't think watching an alternative halftime show was going to cause such a stir in the community. But so our coffee last Saturday, and I will agree with you guys, I was disappointed with what Matt Beck brought because I had laid out, this is what we want to see, what happens in the classroom. So I was disappointed too, but that doesn't neglect the fact that changes do need to be made. And I've, for almost 4 years now, I've been, talking, giving suggestions. It seems like all I'm hearing is, well, we're going to look at Washington State and get our pointers from OSPI. Washington State is tanking in education, and the look for guidance here, to me, is a big problem. We're now in the bottom third in the nation in education. We need to start looking at what some of these other states are doing under the leapfrogged us. And I don't see anyone doing that. So, like I said, it was pretty clear why a lot of people voted no on the levy. And we really need to think about how we can better educate our kids. And I hear a lot of people saying that I don't like the teachers, and that is so far from the truth. because I know you guys are working your butts off, but you're doing the best with what you got. And I'm saying, let's start looking outside of the box. To my fellow school board members, are any of you involved with school boards for academic excellence? If you're not, I would say get plugged in. Next week, they've got a guy that they do once a month Zoom meetings with directors all across the nation. So next week, they have this guy, Chad Alderman, an education data specialist writing at Alderman on Education and elsewhere, who will present on one of the simplest, most effective steps school boards can take to boost student reading achievement. Early phonics check policy. The United Kingdom has implemented this kind of gateway in its schools. So there's a lot of stuff going on outside of the United States, the nations that are now leading the world in education. And I really think we need to start doing some research. I would love to see, we've got this exodus of kids pulling out of our school. I would love to see kids and parents lining up to bring their kids here because we've set a model that everyone wants to look at as the best in the state. So, like I said, we really need to start thinking outside of the box. I also had a long talk with a guy today, Isaac Butts. He's a motivational speaker. He's here in Washington State, and he deals with schools, with teachers. He's a DEI expert, and this has been his focus. He's been working with several districts in the state. I was talking to him about Yelm, and they're just now getting together the statistics. He's been there a year, but with what he's doing, they have lowered classroom disruption by 40% there.
What's his name? I'm sorry.
Isaac Butts. In fact, I can send you the link to his website. I sent it to Mary earlier today. Like I said, I just talked to him today. It's stuff like this we need to investigate to find out, what's working, what isn't working, because I think the voters said it with the last levy with the no. And I think we need to really be listening to those in our community. We need to take it serious, that we need to really focus on the kids here and giving them a product, giving the parents a product that they feel happy with. And I've been a businessman for 30 years, and if I was only making 30% of my clients happy, I would have been out of business a long time ago.
Good statement. Good statement. Listen up, that's a good statement.
Maggie?
Welcome. It's great, always great to have more students and more input from the students. I was on the school board once years ago, and we never had anybody here. Literally, except for students that had to come and people on staff that had to present something. I don't think I ever saw maybe somebody's spouse. Seriously, that entire run. So this has made all the difference to be able to actually talk to people and hear what people want from us. And even when it's hard conversations, it's so helpful. So I want to thank everybody for showing up because we're all here for the same reason, but our whole community just wants this school to be high functioning for our kids who we love very much. So thank you.
Okay.
What she said. No, I already kept you guys longer. Thank you for being here.
Thank you all for signing up for those levy discussions and committees, pros, cons, all the students getting involved, getting the word out, more lovely faces. On an unrelated note to levy, we all recently received, and I don't know who to forward this to. I can ask you, maybe PJ, from the Mariners. Oh, about tickets?
Well, I didn't get it.
Corey? Your name was mentioned.
I was the contact point for the last few years.
Are you interested in this email?
I've already talked to him. I sent them to Oliver.
Okay, well, as long as you guys get these emails, I'm trying to find you.
When we were the union, when I was union rep, we took the union there a couple times and as a team building, we used our funds. Well,
Yeah, okay, well, as long as you guys are.
Like,
Team
oh.
building emails, great. Thank you all for coming. Any last statements, comments, any of you might have? We're here, come on. All right, meeting adjourned. Grab it.
I was told that Washington is the bottom third of education. What's that source from?
Yeah, I was wondering too.
I don't remember the exact source, but yeah, last I saw, we were 33rd out of 50.
Graduation rate?
No, that's
No,
just
that's
testing
We'll keep it
scores. Testing scores.
Yeah, I looked at multiple sources just now, and actually, 2 out of 3 of them, Washington.
Yes, we are.
That includes the government, the federal government's national report.
So does that include the university? So I know we.
None of it's public school.
We're not a university.
Yeah, we're just.
Well, no, because a lot of the statistics show education in Washington, they show it from K up to other universities, which we do score very high because we have top-notch universities here.
All right, thank you all for coming.
Oh, time is 30.